What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today it's going to be a different type of video. It's going to be more of a commentary where I'm actually going to be going over the top 10 tips that has helped me progress as a player and become a better Fortnite player. But before we get into the video and get into the tips, don't forget to smash that like button. And if it's your first time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and comment, and tell me what's some tips that you've picked up while playing Fortnite that you could share with the rest of the viewers and with me and help us all progress as a better player. Alright, first up on the list is going to be risk acceptance. Now, I know there's some times while you're playing Fortnite where you see a situation and you know that there's going to be a risk that's involved in it, but sometimes actually not taking that risk is going to hurt you as a player. Sometimes people think, oh, maybe I should just run away from the player, but no, you run away from that player, that might be the same person who kills you later on in the game. You need to know when to accept the risk of actually charging and pushing players, as it can help you become a better player, help you improve your combat skills as you get used to fighting people and not just running away trying to make the top 10. Now, with there being tips on risk acceptance, there also has to be tips on risk rejection, because sometimes there are points in the game where you should just not take the risk. For example, I had a game the other day where I was trying to show some camaraderie, and so I charged into the storm to revive my teammate, and you know what happened? I died in the storm. Sometimes you playing with your friends or playing with a random, you just have to know when the risk should be rejected, and this goes for your friends as well, because sometimes they may get mad. They're like, why didn't you revive me, why didn't you do this? But you all have to be aware on when you need to reject risk. For example, charging the team 1v4, you don't want to always do that. Sometimes it may be smart for you to flank a team and sneak up in their base, but if your team isn't covering you, then that's a risk you should reject, as they might just automatically finish you off, and then you're no longer playing the game, you're just a spectator, which we all know sucks, even if it's your friends who's playing and they're seeming like they're going to win. This just means you need to know when to reject certain risks, because it can end up hurting you in the long run and hurting your team and have you thinking, wow, if I was there, maybe we could have won that match. Alright, next up on the list is going to be being a team player. Now, this goes when you're working with random squads or when you're working with your friends. You need to know how to be a team player. You don't need to be that person who always wants to try to prove your teammates wrong or prove your teammates right. You don't want to always be that person who's charging people even though your teammate is saying, hey, let's back off. Even if you know that you might have the skill to charge these people and they don't seem like they're too good, you need to be a team player, as you could aggravate the people you're playing with and you might end up having no friends to play in Fortnite with. And being a team player also goes with, don't hog loot, don't just run across all the loot. The rules I know I typically play with is the person who kills the enemy or the person who opens the chest, they get rights to the loot as they should. But some people, you have those teammates who just want to run across all the loot, and you kind of aggravate your teammates whether you know it or not. So just be a team player. If you have extra shields, share it with your teammates. Don't think, oh, I might be able to use this later, or I'm more deserving, or I think I should have this because I'm better. No, share the loot, be a team player, and it'll help in the long run because your teammates won't get tilted. They'll understand certain decisions, they'll respect you more, and it'll just go better when you're working with squads. In any other game, it's always just good to be a team player. Alright, next up, peeking. Peeking is something that typically is a risk rejection type of thing. Risk rejection and risk acceptance. Peeking can be both. This typically is a tip for late game, as sometimes in the late game you built a base and it's just this tall base or it's this short base, but you see enemy snipers and you want to peek so bad to snipe them. Well, you need to know when this risk is acceptable and when it's rejectable, and this is based off of your teammates. Sometimes you need to know if your teammates are actually covering you while you're peeking, because it sucks when you're with a team and you peek and next you know you get sniped and they have a semi and they just hit you 2 times because your teammates weren't covering you. And in solos, this is a risk rejection that could save your life, or it's a risk that you may accept that might just end up causing you to lose the game at second place. I typically lose most of my games due to peeking in solos. I peek and then next you know you just automatically get sniped, and that's one of the moments you need to know when to peek. For example, if there's 2 bases around you, you don't want to peek all the way out. Maybe trying to peek through like try peeking through a wall or something like that just don't peek all the way out, because typically you peek to snipe one person and then you get sniped by another one. Alright, so next up on the list we have greed slash patience. So this typically is a late game or charging thing. Sometimes you have those teammates. I know I have my friend who he just is an impatient player, and then you have people who are greedy players too. But I'll go on the patient side first. So when it comes to charging a team, sometimes you have those friends who's just impatient. They immediately just start rushing without letting you know. And this goes with communication, which actually wasn't on the list, but I'll go in a little bit further in detail on communication maybe later. But this goes in context with communication when it comes to impatience. You don't want to be that impatient teammate who always rushes someone and then you need to be revived and you blame your teammate all the time. And then next you know, due to your impatience and rushing them, you rush them and then you end up dying and you blame your teammate and then you get your teammate killed trying to revive you, which really sucks. So don't be an impatient player, because it doesn't work out in the end. You want to make sure that you're always communicating with your teammates as well, telling them, asking them, hey, do you mind if I push this? I'm going to push this. You want to tell them what you're going to do. You shouldn't just ever push and then expect your teammates to just automatically follow. That's not fair to your teammates, and it's going to eventually lead to people not wanting to play with you, as it also makes you a bad player, honestly, being impatient. Now, greed. This typically affects me inside of solos matches, because in solos, let's say I kill two people and my patience is low on trying to hurry up and collect their loot, and it's partially greed. Greed may lead to you having to be impatient. So let's say you kill someone inside of a solos match. You don't want to always push the loot and try to go to the loot and just pick around. And if you do that, when you're picking up loot, you should already be analyzing what you want from that loot. You don't want to go over there and then just be looking, trying to see, hey, do I want this? Do I want that? Before you even go to pick up the loot, you want to always see what you need, if you need some meds, if this item is better. So right when you get over there, you can hurry up and just pick it up. But inside of a solos, you want to typically always assume that someone else is watching that fight. So if you kill someone, maybe after you kill them, you can go ahead and just watch, kind of camp. There's nothing wrong with camping when it's a smart camp and it's not just a camp to try to get to the top 10. There's always such thing as smart camping. So sometimes you may need to camp because it may be smart in a scenario that you're in to camp and see if anyone's going to try to pick up your loot. Because next thing you know, you go to pick up your loot and you're dead. And it sucks because in solos, you only get one shot to win a game. So next up on the list, we have map knowledge. Map knowledge is something that could really save you. For example, knowing where certain chests are could really help you out in a game. Typically, sometimes people use the term secret chests when the chests aren't really secret at all. It's just that most people lack having map knowledge, and this will really help you get an advantage over other players, because sometimes you may go or land somewhere and you see players picking up guns, but they're running past chests that's usually spawning there, and it's because they have no map knowledge. Or you may have the map knowledge to know where people usually camp inside of a certain place, or where things usually spawn, or places that you could camp. And this will just help you have an advantage over other players. Sometimes players may think, hey, no one's gonna know I'm here, but you're checking and making sure, hey, that bush is typically a bush that people like to camp, or so forth. Just having map knowledge and knowing where you're going in the game without always having to pull up that mini map is just going to help you being able to familiarize certain stuff in the game, and it'll just give you an advantage. Okay, next on the list is building. Sometimes building is smart, and sometimes building can get you into some trouble. And an example of this is sometimes people like to just build while they're being attacked, and eventually it leads to them getting in trouble because you're building and they're just shooting it down, and eventually you may run out of resources, or they may just outplay you because you're just sitting there and you're concentrating on building instead of actually shooting and actually trying to fight back. You should make your building an offensive building more than a defensive building, because if you build offensively to actually get a better vantage point and you're kind of being aggressive, it'll always help you get better in the game. Typically playing passive in the game doesn't really help you get better at the game. Anyone can play passive and make it to the final 10, but if you're being aggressive and you're getting kills and you're getting better at your combat, this is definitely going to help you. For example, this base you see I'm in, this is a good example of late game building, and late game is actually one of my topics, so I'll just put them together. Late game and building go hand in hand. There's no okay. Late game and building go hand in hand. Typically, sometimes I play with Okay, late game and building go hand in hand. Typically, sometimes I play with friends who are like, hey, there's no point in building. But if you're in the late game, everyone is going to have a base, and you don't want to be that person who's just running out in the open. Now, whether or not you want to build a big base or build like a small base, that's a risk, exception, or rejection that you're going to have to take. Building a tall base may end up leading to you getting targeted by a lot of people because you're standing out. Building a small base may make you end up being at a low vantage point where people actually have the overhead above you and they can snipe you really easy. But you just need to know what you're going for when you're building. Are you just trying to build to get yourself out of a situation? Are you trying to build something permanent where it's actually going to allow you to have an advantage point over people? You need to know when to accept the risk and reject the risk when it comes to building, because typically a risk that people accept is building a high base and then someone coming and trying to knock it down. That's typically something that gets people in trouble. Now, last on our list is going to be the last two. It's going to be weapon selection and weapon slots. Typically, a lot of people aren't smart when it comes to weapon selection, especially newer people. I was spectating a dude the other day trying to give him some advice, and he was just picking up really bad weapons. For example, AR with scope. I know this is an opinion, but he dropped a SCAR for an AR with scope, and I had to make him aware that the SCAR is going to be a way better weapon selection. And this is when you need to know what weapons are actually good inside the game and what weapons are going to serve you a better purpose. Now, if you're playing with a team, you need to know what your team has and what you guys need. Maybe you want to pick up an RPG or a grenade launcher. That's just going to make you guys able to be more aggressive when it comes to pushing a base. And then next, weapon slots. This is the last one on the list, and this is one of the most important ones to me, as you want to always know where you're putting your weapons at. Typically, when you get inside of a close combat fight, you always panic, which is why you probably want to have your shotgun inside your first slot, because you're going to panic on that first slot, and since you're in close combat, it may do you some good. In my second slot, I usually have an AR in my second slot, because the AR typically helps. Being in my second slot, I can switch right from my shotgun to there if I have to reload or something. In my third slot, I usually have some type of explosive, and in my fourth slot, I usually have some type of sniper and some meds to end it off with. But that's going to be the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to leave a thumbs up and leave your comments on what are your favorite Fortnite tips that you have learned from playing the game. And that's going to conclude the video. Actually, guys, there's one more thing I want to tell you guys. I'll just play this clip for you to see. As I'm telling you, if you have any suggestions that you want to see in the next video, as far as any Fortnite challenges or anything like that, or if you want to squad up and actually play with me and be in one of my next videos, leave a comment down below with your PSN name, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video.